Hey guys, last time I read, Fudge rode his bike to school and he was a mess, so Peter had to help him out. And they took him to the nurse and then the principal came in. When I was a boy, I had scraped knees and elbows all the time. Used to roller skate and fall down week after week. Fudge sniffled and said, "Too bad you weren't any good at it." "Who says I wasn't any good at it?" Mr. Green said. "You just said you were always falling down," Fudge said. "That's because I took a lot of chances," Mr. Green said. "Now I want you to hurry back to your classroom because we're having a surprise visitor in a little while." "Who is it?" Fudge asked. "It's a very famous man, someone who writes and illustrates children's books. His name is Brian Tumpkin." "Brian Tumpkin is alive?" Fudge asked. "Alive and well and on his way to our school." "Brian Tumpkin is alive?" Fudge said again. "I never knew that." "Did you know that, Peta?" "I never thought about it," I said. Mr. Green faced Miss Elliott and said, "Lucky break for all of us that he's agreed to do a program for our boys and girls." "I'm afraid I don't know who he is," Miss Elliott said. Then you must be dumber than I thought," Fudge told her. "First you put peroxide on my cuts without blowing to take away the sting, and now you don't even know who Brian Tumpkin is?" "I never blow on cuts," Miss Elliott said. "You can spread germs that way. Mommy always blows when she puts on peroxide." "Yes, well," Mr. Green said, "let's go back to our classrooms now. It's almost time for our special program." At 10 o'clock, we all filed into the auditorium. Then Mrs. Morgan, the librarian, introduced Brian Tumpkin, telling us that millions of kids have read and loved his books, and how lucky we were that he was able to make a last-minute stop at our school. Brian Tumpkin walked on stage. He was tall, with gray hair and a gray beard. He waved to us. Then he turned and beckoned to someone backstage. "I've brought with me a friend," he said. "Come on, Uriah, hurry up. The boys and girls are waiting for you." Nobody came out on stage, but Brian Tumpkin pretended that Uriah had. He pretended to be holding Uriah's hand and kept talking to him as if he were really there. I thought, either this guy's really whacked out or he's a great actor. Finally, he looked out at the audience and asked if any of us saw Uriah. Someone down front called out, "I see him." I didn't even have to look. I knew who that voice belonged to. "You see?" Brian Tumpkin told the rest of us. "One of you can see Uriah. Come on up here, young man." Next thing I knew, Fudge was on stage. I slid down in my seat. "What's your name, young man?" "Fudge." "Well, that's an unusual name," Brian Tumpkin said. "I know it is," Fudge said. "How would you feel about helping me out today, Fudge?" "It's a real privilege," Fudge said. I couldn't believe it. He finally learned how to use the word. You could see that Brian Tumpkin was impressed. He said, "Well, it's a real privilege for me, too." "That makes it unanimous," Fudge said. "My, you certainly have an impressive vocabulary," Brian Tumpkin said. "I learned a lot of words at home." "That's wonderful. Some of them I'm not allowed to say in school. Some of them my bird can say." "His name is Uncle Feather." I slid lower down in my seat. "What grade are you in, Fudge?" Brian Tumpkin asked. "Kindergarten." "Who was your teacher?" "I started out in Rat Face's class, but now I'm in Miss Ziff's class. She's a lot nicer than Rat Face." I covered my face with my hands. Let's get on with our chalk talk now, shall we?" Brian Tumpkin said. "What's a chalk talk?" Fudge asked. "I'm going to sit down at my easel," Brian Tumpkin said, walking across the stage, "and you're going to describe a person to me. And I'm going to draw the person you describe. Do you think you can do that?" "Yes," Fudge said. "It's a man." "Oh, I'll need more help than that," Brian Tumpkin said, picking up a piece of chalk. "Is he tall or short?" "He's tall," Fudge said. "He's got a fat belly that hangs over his pants. And he's mostly bald, but he's got some hair around the edges. And he wears glasses. He's got a pointy nose and a mustache that curls down around his mouth." Brian Tumpkin was drawing as fast as Fudge was talking. "He's got a crooked front tooth, and his feet are very long, and he walks like this," Fudge said, giving a demonstration. "Like a duck?" Brian Tumpkin asked. "Yes," Fudge said. All of a sudden, I knew who Fudge was describing. I wanted to get out of the auditorium as fast as I could, but then Fudge looked at me. Fudge looked out at the audience. "Where are you, Peter? I can't see you." And I knew that I couldn't get up without having everybody look at me, so I slouched down as low as I could and didn't answer. "Peta, can you see me?" I let out a groan. Joanne, who was sitting behind me, giggled. I can't find my brother, Fudge told Brian Tumpkin. You'll find him later, Brian Tumpkin said. And you haven't told me what this man is wearing. Oh, Fudge said. He's wearing a blue shirt and a tie with stripes and brown pants and brown socks and brown shoes and brown shoelaces. Brown shoelaces, Brian Tumpkin repeated. Okay, there we are. He brushed off his hands and held up the picture. Okay, does he look like anyone you know, Fudge? Yes, Fudge said. Who? Brian Tumpkin asked. Mr. Green, Fudge said. The audience laughed. Brian Tumpkin smiled. Who is Mr. Green? The principal, Fudge said. Now the audience roared. Oh dear, Mr. Tumpkin said. Oh my. He put his hand to his mouth. As you could see, he was trying hard not to laugh. Mr. Green went up to the stage, then introduced himself to Brian Tumpkin, then shook hands. Mr. Green said, I think that's a wonderful drawing. I'd like to have it for my office. Would you sign it for me? Certainly, Brian Tumpkin said. I'm very glad you like it. He signed his name across the drawing and handed it to Mr. Green. Everyone clapped. Then Fudge said, Mr. Green, was this a catastrophe? And Mr. Green laughed and said, not quite, Fudge, but I'm sure you'll try harder next time. I was sure too. Chapter 12, Tootsie Speaks Out. One morning in May, Fudge woke me. Hurry up, he said. You're going to be late for school. Go away, I mumbled, but he pulled off my blanket and shook me. You're really going to be late for school. I looked at my alarm clock. 10 after 8. How come my alarm didn't go off? I wondered as I jumped out of bed, raced to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, threw on some clothes, and headed downstairs. It was quiet in the kitchen. Where is everyone? I asked. Ha ha, Fudge sang, jumping up and down. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. It's Saturday. I really fooled you, didn't I? You little. But he was out the back door and running before I could get my hands on him. I clunked back upstairs and got in bed. I'm going to kill that kid. I told myself, I'm going to tear him to little pieces. I tossed and turned, but it was no use. I couldn't get back to sleep. I heard Tootsie babbling. I got up and walked in the hall to her. She was sitting up in her crib, flinging out toys one at a time. She stood up when she saw me and held out her arms. I lifted her out of the crib. Yuck, I said, you're smelly. I set her down on her table and changed her diaper. Yuck, I said again. The worst thing about babies is diapers. I cleaned her up and dumped plenty of baby powder on her backside. Yuck, Tootsie said. That's right, I told her, yuck. I carried her down to the kitchen, put her in the high chair and gave her a bowl of dry cereal to nibble. Fudge peeked in the back door. As soon as he saw me, he took off again, but this time I chased him. When I caught him, I turned him upside down and tossed him over my shoulder and carried him back to the house. I'll scream, he said. You do and you're dead, I told him. If you hurt me, I'll tell, he said. Go ahead and tell, I kicked open the door. When Tootsie saw Fudge upside down, she clapped her hands and laughed. By then, Fudge's face had turned dark red. Put me down, Fudge cried. Never, I said. It was just a joke, he whined. Can't you even take a joke? Some joke. Fudge kicked and hollered. Put me down. Say please, I told him. Please? Please what? I asked. Please put me down. Say you'll never wake me up on a Saturday morning again. I'll never wake you up on a Saturday morning again. Or a Sunday, I added. Or a Sunday, he repeated. Or a holiday, I said. Or a holiday. Tell me how sorry you are that you did that today. I said. I'm sorry. How sorry? Very sorry. Very, very, I asked. Yes, very, very, very sorry. I stood up and watched as the blood drained from his face and his color changed from bright purple to flesh. Ha ha, he said, wriggling away from me. I had my fingers crossed behind my back the whole time. So, ha ha, none of what I just said is true. He dashed out the back door again. I shook my head. Yuck, said Tootsie. And then she tossed her bowl of dry cereal on the floor. How come you're up so early, Peter? Mom asked. An hour later, as she pulled her robe around her and yawned. It's a long story, I said. Well, it certainly is a beautiful day. No point in wasting it. She poured a cup of milk for Tootsie. Where's Fudgy? Outside with Turtle, I said. He's such an early bird, Mom said. The early bird catches the worm. Mom nodded and made herself a cup of coffee. I went over to Alex's house. Let's do something exciting today, I said. Like what? Alex asked. That's the problem, I said. I don't know. We could dig for worms for Mrs. Mulder, Alex suggested. No, it's too early for worms, I told I told her the fattest ones aren't ready until late summer. Well, then what? We have to think, I said. We sat on the sofa watching stupid Saturday morning cartoons for the next hour. I got an idea in the middle of Spider-Man. How about a picnic, I said. It's a perfect day for a picnic. Where would we have it? Alex asked. I don't know. Alex scratched his head. How about the lake? We could watch the university crew rowing while we eat lunch. Yeah, that's a good idea, I said. What have you got to eat? Probably nothing, Alex said. We went into the kitchen. My mother shops on Saturday afternoons. He opened the refrigerator. I was right, he said. Nothing. My father shops on Fridays, I said. Let's go see what we have. At my house, we found cold chicken, tomatoes, rye bread, fresh fruit, and fresh lemonade. Great, Alex said. Let's pack up. I went to work making sandwiches while Alex fixed the thermoses of lemonade. Don't forget the salt, Alex said. Right. And the mayonnaise, I added. You can't bring mayonnaise on a picnic, Alex said. Why not? It's too gooey, and besides, it makes you sick. It can make you sick. Says who? My mother once got food poisoning from eating potato salad on a camping trip, Alex said. But we're not taking potato salad. It was the mayonnaise in the potato salad that did it, Alex said. But we're not going camping, I argued. We're just going to the lake. I don't want any mayonnaise on my food, Alex said. None. Okay, fine, I told him. I'll spread the mayonnaise on my 2 pieces of bread. And don't forget the salt. I took out the salt shaker and held it up just to make my point. Sprinkled some of it onto Alex's head. Very funny, he said, shaking it off. The screen door slammed. It was Fudge and Turtle. Turtle dove into his water dish and started slurping. Fudge looked around. What are you doing? What does it look like we're doing? I said. Making lunch, Fudge said. That's right, we're going on a picnic. We are? Fudge asked. Not we, I told him. Us, me, and Alex. Us, me, and Alex, sorry. Where are you going? What? Sorry. Where are you going for the picnic? The lake. I come too? Oh, you won't, I said. Why not? He asked. Because you're not invited, that's why. But I like picnics. I like the lake. Too bad. And I said I was sorry, remember? Yeah, I said. And you also told me you had your fingers crossed behind your back. So everything you said was a lie. That was a joke, Fudge said. I didn't really have them crossed. You know what happens to kids who lie, I asked? No, what? You'll find out. I shoved him out of the way. He ran out back calling, Mommy, Mommy, can I please go to the lake with Pita? No, Mom said. Why not? Because it's too far and there's a lot of traffic on the road. Fudge stomped his feet and yelled, I want to go to the lake. I want to go on a picnic too. When he saw us come outside with our lunch bags, he raced towards us. Take me, he begged. Get lost, I said, kicking my leg free. Come on, Daniel. Call Daniel. Count ladybugs. Do something. Fudge covered his ears with his hands, opened his mouth, and screamed. He was going to wind up with a sore throat. He's going to wind up with a sore throat, Alex said. Come on, I said. Let's get out of here. We hopped on our bikes and coasted down the driveway. Fudge picked up a couple of rocks and hurled them at us, but he missed. We could still hear him screaming 2 blocks away. Alex had to be home for his piano lesson at 3 o'clock. And by then, we'd seen enough of the crew rowing and more than enough of the bugs down by the lake. Mom and Dad were working in the garden when we rode into the driveway, and Tootsie was asleep in the lounge chair. Did you have a nice picnic, Mom asked. It was fun, I said. A lot of ants, but fun. Don't forget to rinse the thermos, Dad said. I won't, I said. Where's Fudge? I haven't seen him since you left, Dad said. He's probably at Daniel's, Mom said. He was very angry. I noticed. At 4, the phone rang. I answered it. It was Daniel. It was Daniel's mother. She asked me to tell Daniel it was time to go home. He's not here, I said. Then where is he? She asked. I don't know, I said. Wait a minute. I put down the phone and went back to the back door and called out. It's Mrs. Mannheim. She's looking for Daniel. Mom ran into the house, wiping her hands on her jeans. She picked up the phone. Mrs. Mannheim, we thought Fudge was at your house. No, not since 11:30 or so. You found what? Oh, no. You don't suppose. Yes, of course, right away. She hung up the phone. What is it, Dad asked. He was standing at the door listening. She found Daniel's piggy bank, smashed, and all the money gone. And I'll continue reading tomorrow. Bye, guys.